Martín Solá is an actor, singer, and voice teacher who has appeared in the Broadway productions of The King and I, La Boheme, Coram, On Your Feet, and can currently be seen in How to Dance in Ohio. He is also an award-winning filmmaker. His recent TV credits include portraying Father Russo on the Netflix hit series Archive 81, guest starring as IAB Captain Jerome Garibaldi on FBI, and Angél Garcés on Law and Order SVU. Last year, he appeared in the new Susan Laurie Parks works, Plays for the Plague Year at the Public Theater. Welcome to this edition of Backstage Pass with Leah Chang. I'm your host, Leah Chang. Today, I'm so fortunate to have the opportunity to sit down with Martín Solá, and we just saw him in How to Dance in Ohio. So let's talk about How to Dance in Ohio first, because this is what I just saw you in.
I am the understudy for all the adult males in How to Dance in Ohio. So it's 3 different tracks. And I cover 2 of the dads, and then I cover the principal role of Emilio Amigo, Dr. Amigo. And he runs this clinic for autistic young adults in Columbus, Ohio. And I got a chance to play that role 4 different times, Friday, 2 Saturday, 1 Sunday, which was quite an undertaking. My artistic life started in Philadelphia. I went to a music school starting in like 4th grade. So half of the curriculum was music. And then the rest of the day would be whatever general subjects. Mm-hmm. And actually my elementary school principal and music teacher came to the show on Saturday matinee.
Oh, yeah, wow.
His name is Jack Carr, Dr. Jack Carr, and he started that school. It's called GAMP in Philadelphia, and that's where I got sort of my musical training. And I was there from 4th through 8th grade, and then went to Florida, and I just didn't know that no one in my family is an artist. Mm-hmm. So, and they're very practical people, so when I went to college, I went for engineering. And after about a year of studying that, I found myself always up at the music school with my guitar and singing and practicing. And I took some private lessons. And then I took a class through the school for voice. And, music had been in my life, since I was so young. But I just didn't know that it was something that people did until mm-hmm. I got to school and I saw there's a music department and there's people pursuing this path. And there was a professor there who became my mentor. His name's Andre Thomas, Dr. Andre Thomas. And where I took voice lessons was right across from his office. And he invited me to a choral concert. Mm. And I went and heard, the music and the soloists. And it just occurred to me I think I can do that, So the next semester I auditioned and I got in and got a scholarship for singing and changed my major. He kind of changed my life.
But you started out and you were initially pursuing a path in opera before you hit the Broadway stage. Yeah,
so the music department was where I studied, and I kind of got obsessed with voice mechanics and technique and making sound unamplified. Mm. And that took me into the classical field. I did my bachelor's in voice, in opera, I guess. And then I did a graduate studies at University of Illinois and got my master's. And I came to New York and was pursuing an opera career. And the thing is, in opera, everything is very structured in terms of, they have voice types and you have to kind of fall into mm-hmm. that tenor, baritone, bass. And my voice was kind of in between. I couldn't quite find I was somewhere between baritone and tenor. And it just so happens kind of the leading voice in music theater is that kind of baritone.
Oh,
and so
you fit right in.
I fit right in. It was just, I kept struggling to do this one thing. And then I auditioned for my first musical, and then I was on Broadway, and I was like, Okay, but I think even my first probably decade of doing theater, I was still pursuing classical music. So I kept training and trying to do that, but the theater jobs kept coming. And at some point, I finally decided to take the path of less resistance.
Okay. So from The King and I, you went to Coram Boy?
Yes. And it's funny because so many of the shows that I started with had, the Coram Boy had a lot of music we had like stuff from the Messiah, a lot of Handel music, and some contemporary music written. And so most of the singers were classically trained singers.
So you fit right in.
Yeah, so I fit into that. And Konstantin Katsopoulos was our maestro, our MD. And, it was a good relationship to meet him and connect with him because the classical music that he spent his life in that as well. So he was a great mentor and music director.
And then from Coram Boy, you went to On Your Feet. What was that?
Well, actually, there was one before. I did La Boheme, Baz Luhrmann's La Boheme.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, and I think that was actually before Coram Boy, but Konstantin was the first conductor for that. That was the first time I worked with him as a conductor. And I remember I auditioned as a baritone, and he said, "You're a tenor, so if I make you a tenor in this ensemble, will you
stay in your?
He said, if I give you this job, you have to sing tenor." And I said, "I'll put on a red dress and sing soprano if you put me in this show." And he laughed, and so that was the beginning of our relationship. And then we did Coram Boy together. But I had mostly done sort of classic, because even Rodgers and Hammerstein, a lot of the singers there were classically trained and came from the opera world. The King and I had our dance troupe was from like Martha Graham, some ballet companies, Ailey, incredible dancers. And then we had these opera singers who were singing the roles. And then we had these really fine actors, Randall Duck Kim,
Randall.
James Saito,
oh my God, yes,
Andy Pang.
What?
Yeah, I shared dressing room. Alan Marocco was there. Studying anytime I was in the city working on something, I'd be studying acting. Had some other great teachers. Charles Tuthill, who passed away, was a great acting mentor. And now I work with Rob McCaskill. But I'm continually studying because I didn't get that training in school.
Sure.
So then.
But that discipline comes from your music life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because I've always studied.
In search of.
Yeah. But Jimmy was an amazing friend and colleague and mentor, and really guided me along the way. So then I ended up in On Your Feet, and that was a whole nother world because I had never sung like pop music. While I was in On Your Feet, I worked closely with a singer, Eliseo Roman, singer and actor, who was part of Broadway Inspirational Voices.
Okay.
And he recommended me for a gig, and then I got into BIV, doing different gigs with them, and I started being around all these really amazing singers. And you sit next to
many genres.
Of many different genres. And then I started copying style and listening and having to sing different music. And then in BIV, I learned all these different styles. So a few years ago, I got to revisit On Your Feet at the Muni.
Okay.
And we had the same music director, Lon Hoyt. But that's after 3 years of singing with BIV. And I came in and I was playing the dad. And at our first rehearsal, he just looked at me and goes, "What have you been doing?" It's like, you can continually learn by being exposed to different artists and just have the curiosity and the humility to ask for help and to keep seeking out. I started teaching back when I was in graduate school. I had a wonderful teacher there. His name was William Miller, and he was a great teacher. And it was really sort of the foundation of my singing and learning about singing. And I also read a lot of pedagogy books, and I've had some other really wonderful teachers here. I continued studying in the city. I worked with Dr. Robert White, who was at the Juilliard School for a long time, and Myra Vassian was a teacher of mine. But I'm continually trying to learn and refine and understand. But along with my training, I started teaching in my 20s, and I feel like there's two things I love about it. One is our business can tend to be a little self-centered because of the energy you need to put into what we have to do, what we have to get up and do.
Well, we are our instruments.
We are our instruments. And there's a lot of pressure when you're working in certain settings to perform. But when I'm teaching, I can focus all my energy on someone else in helping them. And I think that's a good balance for this career. And secondly, I get to pass on all the things that I've learned from my teachers to these young artists, and I feel like what's important to me is to find a healthy technique that allows for longevity. You can avoid injury, and have the consistency and confidence to sing 8 shows a week without worrying. And so, you know, I've been able to help a number of artists realize those goals and book really great jobs and really flourish, and that's incredibly gratifying. I was doing a show up in the summer at the Rev Theater, State Fair, which I never thought I would do. But I got an audition for it and made a self-tape. And I just really connected with the work and with the character. I auditioned for a number of different things at the time, but I connected with this character of Suzan Laurie Park's ex-husband. And so I sent in a tape, and I have a great relationship with the public, and they offered me the part. And so it was so interesting because when we started rehearsal, the play is basically about her personal experience through the pandemic. Every day she wrote a play. And, you know, the characters are like her husband, her son, her mother, you know, it's like very personal.
And then she's in it.
And then she was in it with us.
As herself.
As herself.
Only. She was the only person who played one person,
That's right? That's right. And so she was like, I'm not an actress, but I can play me. Yeah. You know, and it turns out she's a fabulous actress. But, and so it's a play with music. She's a wonderful songwriter. The songs actually won the Drama Desk for Best Songs in a Play. And she plays guitar in it, and we had a great band. But it's a very intense play about the pandemic that we'd all just come out of, and for many people it was their first or second job after, because it dealt with all this shit that was happening during the pandemic, the political strife, the racial violence, the Black Lives Matter, all those things that were happening. She just experienced them, and then she brings them out so that we can all talk about it. And it was kind of a way to unpack and process that through art. And
as only she can.
As only she can. And, as we were doing the play each night, it was like we were living through it again, and there, in the play, there were moments of people who had passed who would come and visit her. So we had George Floyd, we had Breonna Taylor, we had, and those were really hard each night as they came up. It wasn't just because we never left the stage, really. We're all up there and witnessing it. We're all witnesses for it the whole night. And it was very intense. It's even just talking about it now. It was an amazing experience. And
you've since been collaborating with her.
After the show closed when she got sick, I think during the first run, she was having a little sore throat. She asked me a few questions because people know like I'm a teacher, and I gave her a few tips, and I think she liked that. So then after that show closed in the fall, we started working together because we knew we were going to do it in the spring.
Right.
And just working with her, teaching her some mechanics of singing and breath and these different things. And so she's been my student ever since in terms of singing. But I often feel like I get more out of the lessons than she does. I always make I leave a wide span of time, and we sit and have tea and we talk, and it's been a great, really, really wonderful relationship.
In addition to being a veteran Broadway actor and a voice teacher for more than 25 years, you also are an award-winning filmmaker, a production company that you collaborate with your wife.
Yes.
Let's talk about your most recent film that won 2 film festival awards. Yes.
Yes. The film
that you star in.
Yes.
Yay!
My wife is Michelle Lou Coughlin. She's a wonderful actress, singer, producer lady. We just got tired of always auditioning for people, and we have ideas, about the way things should be run. And so we started...
so she's a baller.
She's a baller. But we had a group of colleagues that Michelle for years has been putting together classes, and we bring in different teachers and we work, and we've developed relationships with these colleagues. And there was a film festival, the Asian Film Festival. Is
it the Asian American International Film Festival?
That's the one.
And it was the Asian Film Lab's 72-hour shootout before it was renamed the Film Lab.
The first one we did, I don't like to do something and fail. So what we did was we got our group together and we figured out these are the rules. This is what they do. And so we drew some things out of a hat. And
so you did a test run.
We did a test run. So we made our own. And we didn't do it in 72 hours proper, but we timed it so that you could only work on it 72 hours each. And everyone had their sort of department, like writing, filming, continuity. We had a group of actors, and we wrote and shot this thing in 72 hours. And then the next year, the festival rolled around. We did it, and we did that, I think, 2 years, where we actually got on the. I think they picked
the top 10.
They pick
or top 50.
No, I think they pick top 40, and they show
right.
them. So that was kind of cool. We were happy about that, and we attended the festival and watched some of the other films and learned a lot from that.
Good and bad.
Good and bad, yes. And then I actually did a short film that won as an actor that won a number of festivals, and I went to see a lot of films at those Latin film festivals and learned a lot from that as well. And then we made a film for a really wonderful film maker, Hernan Bornas, and Michelle and I were in it together, and that did very well at this film circuits. But we at the festival circuit. But when we were doing that, I kept asking him questions and taking pictures and observing everything, and he was like, I can tell you have more interest than just acting. And he had gone to film school. He's an award-winning editor. That's what he does for a living. And he basically said, he said to me, do you have a project? And I said, well, I wrote this thing. And he was like, let me check it out. And so I took him the screenplay, and he read it. And he says, I think it's pretty good. And he made some suggestions for the end, and I made those edits, and he read it, and he was like, I think you should shoot this film. And I was like, we don't know anything about it. We don't have any equipment. And we were in his house with all the equipment. He said, anything that's in here that I own, you can borrow.
Okay.
For as long as you need it.
Okay.
He said, if I don't own it, I can't lend it to you. But if I own it, and it was substantial equipment. So he mentored us through the entire process of making our film.
And this is which film are we talking about?
We're talking about May I Take It Your Plate. Is the film that we did. So he mentored us. He showed us how to light it, what we needed to do for sound, lent us all the equipment. And as we set things up, he didn't spoon feed us, but we would ask questions. He'd give us things to read or to watch, and then we'd have more intelligent questions, and then he would answer them. And he helped us with our edit and did the final edit for our film. We sent him sort of a rough cut, and then
Right.
So that kind of mentoring is. People just don't do that anymore. People are not invested. So, Evita, there's a theater, I mentioned the Rev. Brett Smock is the artistic director. I direct the two shows that I did there. First one was State Fair, and the second one was Evita, and I got to play Juan Perón. Very exciting. I love that theater. I think they do really high quality work out of the city. It feels like, it's a beautiful setting. I've gone up there 2 summers with my wife will join me, and we're it feels like the country. It's a town, but it feels like the country. There's beautiful lakes and places to go walking, and just get away from Manhattan for a little while. We live in Queens, but just to get out of here and work with wonderful artists in a very wonderful environment. So I got to play Perón with a great cast, fabulous orchestra, and it's a really nice home away from home to work on roles that I haven't done that are kind of on my wish list, and I hope that continues, Brett.
You heard it here first.
Yes. But when the pandemic happened, there was no theater, and so if I wanted to work, I realized I have to figure out how to adjust what I do for the medium of on-camera work.
Yeah.
And I worked with wonderful teacher Rob McCaskill. And prior to that, I had worked with Charles Tuttle, but I still was still doing a lot of theater, and it's just a different, it's a different thing. There's an adjustment that has to happen and to understand the medium and how it works. And so we worked. Michelle and I decided that we needed to do that. She organized the class. We had about 4 or 5 actors. We met all via Zoom, and we worked on this. And then I feel like the market opened up a bit for us because people were open to accepting self-tapes from unknown actors.
Yeah.
And they were seeing a lot more theater people in New York for New York projects.
Sure.
So there was this Netflix project called Archive 81, and I had an audition for Father Russo, and I decided, I identified with the piece and with the character, but I decided at the audition that I was going to wear a priest collar for my tape, and I had an interview and a sort of live Zoom audition, and I don't know. I think I touched a nerve with the director that maybe reminded her of her childhood priest or something. I don't know what it was, but they said they saw a lot of people, and she was like, "I want to see the priest guy." And so I had my interview. I had an audition, and which turned into an interview, and we just started talking. And it turns out, when I was younger, I was pursuing opera, and I did an opera in Quincy, Illinois. And I was housed at a Franciscan friary with all priests.
Oh.
And me and the tenor who was singing that part, and we were doing La Boheme. And I got to know them all very well because I was there for about 7 weeks.
Okay.
And I had these amazing conversations with them, and it kind of broke down that idea that a priest was somehow different than the rest of us. They were all human. There were fathers there who were priests, and there were brothers who were Franciscans. And we became, I ate with them every day. I had 3 meals a day. I had amazing conversations with them as a 20-something-year-old young man. And I felt like I was able to channel, Father Dennis and some of the other priests that I met in this part. And it ended up being an amazing experience because it was it went up to #1 on the charts for.
No, it was very popular.
Very popular. I had a substantial part and a couple of great scenes with the lead actress Dina Shahibi, and it was pretty amazing experience, and it opened up a lot of doors. So
was this before or after you did your short films?
I had done
Or during?
I had done a number of shorts, but that's sort of where I learned to act, was from those indie shorts that paid $150, $200. I got to cut my teeth on sort of going on the smaller sets and learning the skill set.
Sure.
So that when I got on that big set, I felt like, okay, well, I've done this before. There's a lot more people here. The camera's really big. But I felt like between my experience and the work I had done with Rob, that I felt confident in what I was doing. And it turns out that Dina and I had the same acting mentor, Charles Tuttle.
Wow.
So in that green room, when she walked in the green room and she was doing some, meditating and breathing, and I just decided to join her. And then she asked me to run some lines with her, because she's like number 1 or number 2 on the show. Like, she has a lot of stuff. So yeah, we ran lines, and she was like, I really like what you're doing. Where did you study? And I said, I told her, and she just, because Charles had passed. And, she just was like, oh my God, we had this sort of cathartic moment and caught up about all the things that had happened with Charles. And that was it. And so when we got on that set, we did our first scene, and the director called cut, and then he came up to her and said, is there anything you need him to do? And she just went, Martín is a wonderful actor.
Yeah.
And we just discovered he has the same acting mentor.
Yeah.
So please don't ask me that again, because whatever he does is going to be right for today. That set the tone, and the whole dynamics changed. And we spent 3 days on the set shooting that. It was amazing. And that, I think, once that released, it set up a lot of other things I got to do, an FBI and a special victims unit, and a couple of other features that are being released now.
Thank you for joining me for this edition of Backstage Pass with Leah Chang. If you have a chance to see Martín Solá in How to Dance in Ohio, you should.
Bye. Thank you.